If you're a fan of Hunt Showdown or like the idea of Tarkov with an Apex Legends style to it, then I can confidently say this game is for you. But if you're still on the fence and you're looking for a few more answers to what this game actually is, then look no further. Today we'll be discussing what the Cycle Frontier is, its overall direction, mechanics, and the good and the bad sides of its design I have found so far. So if you go on to like this video, hit like and subscribe, as I have plenty of videos like this one for other titles out there, and I'm working on plenty more that you won't want to miss. With that out of the way though, let's get stuck in. So what is the Cycle Frontier then? The Cycle Frontier is a free-to-play, high-stakes PvP, PvE, first-person shooter driven by suspense and danger. Prospect for resources and other riches on the abandoned alien world ravaged by a deadly storm, inhabited by monsters, and frequently raided by other ambitious prospectors. So simply put, you drop down either alone or with friends onto an alien planet searching for resources with the main aim of extracting with your loot, all the while fighting off aliens and other players. As I mentioned earlier, this might sound familiar to many other players out there, as it has taken great amounts of inspiration from other titles like Tarkov and Hunt Showdown. But I feel this may be a good entry point into this genre of game if you have been put off by the more realistic nature of Tarkov, for example, as this game is somewhat more welcoming in those areas. But before we dive in too deep, let's take a look at the overall project and what the people behind it have to say. So the game is currently being developed by Jaeger, a German-based developer with around 140 employees. They worked on the likes of Spec Ops: The Line and a few other games here and there, but to be honest, their resume is pretty short. It's not necessarily a bad thing at all, but something to consider with a new IP such as this one, especially a free-to-play title. Spec Ops: The Line was pretty good back in 2012 to be honest, so they do have that going for them. As for the plans with the title, well, it's planning on a full release sometime in 2022 and will have premium currencies for customizing a character, and there are plans for a battle pass like system from what I can see. This seems pretty low risk at this moment, as it is going to be free to play, so if the microtransactions do end up too invasive, then you can just drop out the game without having wasted any of your own cash for entry. Hopefully, they will have learned from other games from what players will and won't accept, but we'll have to wait and see for now. So, the actual gameplay loop and what it has to offer its players. So the first thing you'll see when you jump into the cycle is your own hub world. In here, you get to see your character from a third-person perspective and wander around at your own pace. This place is used mainly for missions, upgrades and prep, so let's jump into each one of these in a little more detail. At the moment there are 3 different factions / vendors to interact with. Each of them supply you with a set of missions and objectives to complete out in the wild. You have Korolev in orange, ICA in blue, and Osiris in green. They all have their own personalities attached to them, and though the missions are pretty similar between the 3, what they offer in return as a reward can be rather different. They all possess their own shop filled with unique weapons and gear for you to purchase and use out in the field. The more missions you complete with a certain faction, the more weapons and gear that will be available for you to purchase directly from themselves. This is determined by a leveling system baked into each vendor. Pretty basic and easy to understand, which is always welcome. Outside of these 3 shops, however, there is a 4th. This is simply called a quick shop, where you can buy your basics. Nothing exciting here, but when you start out, this is what you will be using: standard armor, weapons, health, and other consumables. You'll also learn about a crafting area where you can print your own gear using materials found on the planet. At the moment, a lot of these are quite higher level, but are certainly worth grinding for, and it adds an extra layer of something to work towards. On top of this, you also have your own private quarters to manage and upgrade as well, very similar to Tarkov once again. Here, you have passives like currency generators and daily supply crates. You go in, take note of what materials you'll need, find them, come back, and upgrade. Simple, but very rewarding. There is a real-time system to these upgrades however, but that could rub people in the wrong way. Finally getting all the gear to upgrade the part that you need in your base, only to have to wait an hour before it's complete. Of course, you can skip this with in-game currency if you wish, but I'll leave that up to you. It's not just your home that you'll want to upgrade whilst you're here though. Your weapons can be upgraded too, not just by buying new and better ones, but also slapping some attachments on them as well. Surprisingly, there are quite a few different types, scopes, grips, different types of magazines too. They all go a long way in giving you the edge and increasing your chances of survival if you do encounter other players, which is what the game is all about really. I won't go into too much detail on the attachments because they are all reasonably predictable, but they do scale with rarity as you might expect. Though you can find a few attachments on your travels, I would recommend actually purchasing a couple at first to get you started, as they can be rare on occasion. Alright, so now you're familiar with the home base, let's get into what it's like to actually drop and the basics for preparing. So this game does a good job at guiding you on what to take on your first few drops, which I'm very grateful for. What it doesn't warn you is about how strong some of the enemies actually are, and how little the basic stim packs actually heal you. So keep that in mind, as most players' first demise will come down to this. So with that said, I would always recommend taking a full med kit with you, as this has come in clutch during my first drops, and yes, it takes a little longer, but it heals a lot more, and you can burn through stims very fast. Another key aspect to dropping is making sure you have the right backpack. At first, this won't matter too much, as you'll probably just want to get in and out as soon as possible, but backpacks don't really work on a slots basis, they work with a carry weight basis. For example, you can carry 10 really light items, but only 3 heavy items. So when you change your backpack, you won't actually see any notice in terms of the UI, but you'll be able to put more stuff into it. The only thing that really changes is the weight capacity number at the top of the menu. So you have your armor for damage mitigation, your weapon, and your health kits. Now, this is where the loop starts. You launch down to the planet and get dropped into a random location. The first thing you will likely check is your map and the 2 extraction points that will be available to you, one of which always seems to be further away, giving you the choice of how far you want to go and where on the map you need to visit in order to complete your jobs. And from this point, the game writes itself. The choices you make and the objectives you want to complete are all up to you. The fights you take or stay out of, the situations you are forced into, this is where games like this truly shine. It's all or nothing time. The lessons you learn with each failure and the rush you feel with each success is down to how much you're willing to risk and how far you're willing to go. It all starts with the first choice, which will be your main extraction point. The loop begins with you searching and scavenging for items. You find one, brilliant. You put that item in your safe space, so even if you do die, you will know you have at least made some progress. But then you find resources for another mission you have, maybe a weapon attachment too, and a high value item that you can sell. The stakes have now risen, the reality sinks in. The rewards you will receive for extracting for all of this, and the possible upgrades you will gain if you just manage to make it out at this point. Then you hear distant gunshots and you remember, you're not alone. This is where the suspense and the game really begins. The stick or twist nature really starts to raise its head, and you actually have something to lose now and so much to gain. But if you still have space in your bag, do you continue to loot or make a beeline for the extraction? Do you take a shortcut running across an open field or sneak around a group of aliens risking their aggro? These are all questions and choices you will have to face when you play this game, and it really does feel tense. And all of this rises with your friends. Yes, they offer some form of protection, but sometimes you might just want to leave, but your friends want to stick around. What this game does right is the possibility of the unknown, and what is going to happen next. You can have 3 back-to-back easy runs, but the one time you have fully geared up with all your best stuff, you get ambushed and dropped whilst trying to extract, and you just never know. When you die, you lose everything other than the item what you've put in your safe pockets, so whatever you take in, you need to be prepared to lose. And one of the biggest hurdles for players is getting over this. The gear you find is there to be used, so use it. If you go down and lose it, so what? You'll get it back later by working for it. Dying is part of what makes the game good, and that's not to say it can't be frustrating, especially if you do go on a few unsuccessful drops back to back, but getting over the fear is the biggest thing you can do to enjoy the game, and the only way of doing this, unfortunately, is by dying. You will soon come to realise that it's okay to fail, and you will actually be a better player for it in the long run. But what happens when you make it? Well, first, relief, and oh boy, we all love that good emotional release. You're done, you made it home safe, for now at least, and you can reap the rewards of your spoils. The more risks you took, the higher the reward usually, and the more satisfaction you'll get. More currency, better missions, with better rewards, further upgrades and deadlier weapons. Slowly but surely you will build yourself up, but the victory is always short-lived. As you now know, the only way to progress further is to go straight back down and do it all over again. So, in conclusion then, this game feels like a widely more accessible version of Tarkov to me. I would highly recommend trying it out if you're new to the genre, or if you're just looking for something fresh to play. It's free to play, so no risk in that area, and I think we are going to start seeing a lot more of this genre of game. More AAA devs will start to take notice and really begin to ramp up what this hybrid battle royale game can really be. But I want to know what you think though. Have you tried this cycle or any other games I've mentioned today? Do you think this type of game will begin to increase in popularity? Tell me your thoughts down below. Hope you enjoyed it, and until next time guys, cheers.